All right, joining us today is a candidate whose place on the ballot has never been in question, Jack Graham. We're glad you're here with us. You have no experience in politics. Who are you? Colorado, you know, you're a new entity to Colorado.
Well, my background is I attended Colorado State University. I was a history student there, played football. I was a quarterback at CSU. I was drafted by the Miami Dolphins, bounced around the NFL for a couple of years, and then started a 35-year business career, including we started our own company here in Colorado that specialized in insuring small business owners in catastrophe-exposed parts of the United States. It was a good business, still is a good business. It's still thriving today. It employs about 250 people, and we sold the business in 2011, and I retired, and then I was asked to become the athletic director at Colorado State, and I absolutely loved that job. Getting to work with the student athletes and the coaches and the fans was a lot of fun, and we got a lot done in a short period of time. I was there for about 3 years. You know, the most gratifying part of that job was we changed the culture. We had a number of issues and challenges that were in front of us, and we said the student athletes had to do 3 things if we were going to get done, deliver the results that we wanted to deliver. Number 1, they had to be people of character and represent the university perfectly, and they did. Number 2, they had to have great academic careers, and they did have good academic careers. And number 3, we said you got to win. We taught them how to win, and they did win. In my final season at CSU, we ended up being ranked number 1 in the country amongst all Division I universities in wins in football, men's and women's basketball, and in volleyball, which are the revenue sports that the NCAA monitors. So we got a lot done in a short period of time.
Yeah, so why politics now?
You know, what's driven my decision to jump into the senatorial races, there's 2 ways to think about this. One, there's a number of public policy matters that really have caught my attention. The Iran nuclear agreement that was signed last summer really caught my attention. It was the tipping point for me, and it said to me, I've got to get engaged, I've got to get involved, I can't just stand on the sidelines any longer. That was not a good deal for the United States of America, and it's proving itself to be close to a disastrous deal at this point in time. And so I felt I can't just watch it, I've got to get engaged. Immigration is a big point of contention for me, issues around health care as well, or national security in general. So there are a number of public policy matters that have really caught my attention. But in addition to that, the overarching issue for me is the incessant bickering and fighting that's going on in Washington, D.C. that's rendered us to a state of almost permanent paralysis. And we've all watched this throughout our lives. I mean, fighting in politics is not new, but it's a different kind of fighting today than I think any of us have ever witnessed. And so I do feel we need, just like at Colorado State, we needed to change the culture, we needed to change the behavior. We need to do the same thing in Washington. We need a different kind of behavior, a different culture. I believe we need different leadership, something that's driven by people who are not career politicians, but people are going back there with an agenda that serves the people of the United States of America, the people of Colorado, as opposed to a career politician looking to advance their own careers. So well, I'm going at it from a different angle.
Well, Jack, as people get to know you, they're going to learn that you are a recent Republican, having switched from being a registered Democrat. They're going to know that you are personally pro-life, but said you will be pro-choice in terms of what you will legislate as a senator, and you are in support of gay marriage. Why do I see an R next to your name then?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, I am a Republican. I was raised in a Democratic family. My dad was raised in the Depression. He's 98 years old and still living today and doing great. But he was an FDR Democrat coming out of the Depression, so it was a habit more than anything. I thought Jack Kennedy walked on water as a kid. And then you move into your adult life. And, you know, raised my family and had a career, et cetera. So it wasn't something I really thought about, to be honest with you. You know, I'd always supported Republicans. I supported George Bush, and I supported Pete Wilson when he was running for president. So I've always behaved like a Republican. I think the other thing to point out is if I am the next U.S. Senator from Colorado, I will be the 4th successive Republican senator who was a Democrat before he switched over to the Republican Party. So Wayne Allard did that, Ben Nighthorse Campbell did that, and Cory Gardner did as well. And I also would say this, Marshall, I think it's important that we not just assume that because you're pro-life or pro-choice, that means you're one thing or the other in terms of your party affiliation. I think we've moved beyond that conversation. It's a very important question that's really profoundly important to each and every one of us. And I value the sanctity of life as much as anybody on the face of the earth. It's how I've lived my life. It's how I've raised my family. But I also believe that America is the place of individual freedoms, individual liberties. It's a place where we get to choose to live our lives as we see fit, and the government should be involved as minimally as possible in our lives.
But we are seeing in the race for the president that people are saying that Donald Trump isn't Republican enough. They could say that about you as well?
No, I don't think they can say that about me. I think If you look at the things that I think are important to America and important to the Republican Party, I embrace those principles. If we want to talk about financial security and financial discipline and fiscal conservatism, whether it comes to actually having a budget and balancing a budget and addressing $19 trillion of debt, I embrace very conservative, fiscal conservative values, and I always will. We need to balance a budget. I'm in favor of a balanced budget amendment. In terms of our national security policy, we do have to rebuild our military. We do need to reestablish our global leadership so that we are absolutely certain that we're protecting ourselves here at home as well as abroad. We need personal security as well. My policies associated with health care, I do believe Obamacare does need to be, the Affordable Care Act does need to be repealed and replaced, and I've got some substantive solutions about that, not just that we should repeal and replace it, but actually the things that we can do to make it better. Practical solutions around immigration, practical energy policies. So if you look at the things that really matter to America and where we need to drive this country on a go-forward basis, I think I'm the model Republican.
You said the word embrace. Donald Trump is the only candidate still for Republicans. Do you embrace Donald Trump?
You know, I have to answer that question in two parts. The first part is I have to look at the alternative, which is certainly going to be Hillary Clinton. And Hillary doesn't tick the box for me. In no way, shape, or form can I support Hillary Clinton. Her values, I've always had this principle, if you're going to come to work for me, with me, you've got to tick the box that you're a person of character, and I don't believe that she is. I mean, she lied to us about her emails and her email server and breached national security. I believe she sold the office of the Secretary of State to the highest bidder, to the benefit, to her own personal benefit, as well as the Clinton Foundation. Her performance as Secretary of State has not been good, and she lied to the Benghazi families and to us about that as well. So she doesn't get there.
That's a
So
long way
Donald Trump is your guy.
to Donald Trump, though.
Well, you know, I have said repeatedly, and I will continue to say, I want different and I want better than I've seen from Donald Trump. He has done a number of things. You know, he's had the freedom to choose his campaign the way he's wanted to run his campaign, and with that, he has the freedom to choose, but that's not freedom of consequences. And from my perspective, he's painted a bullseye right on his chest, if not on his forehead, because of past behavior. I do not respect at all, or will I tolerate. I feel I have a moral obligation to speak out as a citizen as well as a candidate for the U.S. Senate. You know, his comments about Mexican Americans, his comments about women, his comments about Muslims, his comments about David Duke are completely unacceptable to me, and his position on a number of public policy matters as well are inconsistent with mine. So
But when
I
it
want
comes down
different
to
and I want
voting
better.
day, where will you vote?
I want to see different and I want to be better. So I'm going to keep reading the tea leaves and watching and see what comes of all this.
So it's possible you don't choose a presidential candidate on Election Day?
You know, I'm not somebody who's going to sit on the sidelines. You know, as I said, I do not want to see Hillary Clinton become our next president, but I want to see different and I want to see better from Donald Trump. And, you know, he's a guy about the art of the deal. Well, if he wants my support, I'm going to negotiate with him a little bit. And so let's see where he comes in that regard.
Jack Graham, appreciate you joining us. I'm sorry, you may not know this about us. We're both CU grads, so don't hold that against us. We won't hold it
You
against
guys couldn't get into Colorado State?
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.